I'd like to call to order the October 18th, 2021 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Commissioner Girding.
Present.
Commissioner Fink.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Cantola.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And we also have with us our staff, Shannon Reidlinger. And we'll start with tonight with Pledge of Allegiance. So if we all stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next item on our agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our September meeting. And I would ask if there are any changes or additions or corrections to the meeting minutes, please let it be known at this time.
Well, I sound like a broken record, but under the last page, under Commissioner Updates, it's miswritten as Chair Wilson and Commissioner Girding thank Council Members Abel. So once again, I took over your spot momentarily. So Chair Wilson has to change to Commissioner Wilson.
Good, we have a good editor on our commission. All right, I would look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes with that one change.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the September 20th, 2021 meeting minutes as written with that one correction, say aye.
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 Opposed? The meeting minutes are approved. So this evening, we have been discussing in the past the EV-ready zoning and subdivision ordinance, what should be included in it. And tonight, we're going to review a sample of the ordinance language that we would be looking at, and I'll turn it over to Shannon Reidlinger. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so as mentioned, at our last meeting, we started to discuss the topic of the zoning and subdivision ordinance amendments. Basically, at a very, very high level, we talked about the three different categories of those amendments and then prioritize them. At this meeting, I wanted to share with you guys some sample language, and I want to stress that it is sample language at this point. So there will be editing to this language. It will change further on down the line, but I wanted to give the EMC the opportunity to take a look at that language, tell you a little bit about the process to get some of this drafted and amended, and then give you the chance to ask any questions that you might have. So I'm not going to go through the entire table. That would take way too long. But I did want to point out that all of the sample language that is in green here, that was all drafted by Jen, my predecessor, before she moved on to a new position. So we already have some precedent set for Oakdale. She's already kind of gone into the ordinances themselves, changed out those things, edited them, and then that will theoretically be very similar to what we present to the Planning Commission and to City Council later on down the line. So at least you know that whatever's in green, that's already been kind of drafted up. The rest of it is just samples from other cities. There is St. Louis Park included in there, and then there are some other cities across the country. Just to give you a sense for, within those specific categories, what we might be looking to change or what sort of language we're looking to incorporate in our own zoning ordinances. I will also say that a lot of these ordinance amendments kind of try to present recommendations about EV readiness as opposed to requirements. That is something that right now, at least for Oakdale, we're sort of leaning towards recommending versus requiring. That again may change based on the Planning Commission's recommendations or council's appetite, but right now, most of the language is about recommending and not requiring. So the way that this will work is tonight, again, you'll have the chance to ask any questions that you may have, provide any comments, and then I will ask that we do a formal vote to support taking these edits and amendments to the Planning Commission for consideration and further review. The Planning Commission will give some of their feedback, probably help solidify the language. The consultant who's working with us right now in a planning capacity will help me with that. And then once the Planning Commission has had the chance to review everything, it'll move on to City Council where it has kind of the final say. They'll approve or disapprove edits as needed, that sort of a thing. So it's going to be a little bit of a process, but we are moving forward with that at the very least, and it starts with this commission. Are there any questions, any immediate comments that you guys have?
Well, I was wondering if it's perfectly clear in here that this does not cover private residences, whether these are all public locations or commercial locations.
Mm-hmm. So I will say in the land use category, there will be, or there should be, something that indicates that EV charging stations are an accessory use under the category of single-family homes.
Under what category?
Single-family homes.
Oh. So it includes single-family homes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Shannon, after, I guess, as far as the process that you described, after it goes to the Planning Commission and they approve some language, it will go directly to the City Council then for approval, or will we have a chance to see that language as well?
That's a great question. I'm not totally sure. I'll get that answer for you.
Okay. And I guess just a general comment. Some of these, the language that Jen had put in here, and then the added examples of what other cities, some of those are similar, or cover similar things, like in the signage, the requirement to provide a phone number or other contact information on the equipment to report problems is also included under item number 5 and the other. So I assume when this goes through, this will all be cleaned up. And but I do like that there were some things that other cities are doing that would be added in here. Because I think like the rest of that item, you know, like safety information, usage fees and that, to call that out in the signage, I think those are good things to have there. So, yeah, so I really like the way this is put together. I like what Jen did with this, but I also like the additions with the best, you know, some best practice from other cities.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the best practice from other cities, it's helpful to be able to see what other people have done when it comes to updating their own zoning amendments and their ordinances. I think that's why it's so critical that this goes to the Planning Commission here, because we can use the spirit of this language that we have from these best practices, but the Planning Commission is going to help us understand what is specifically going to work in Oakdale and what will continue to jive with the rest of Chapter 25 of the ordinances. So it may not look exactly like what the other cities have included, but there's a place to start the conversation at the very least.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Who is responsible for setting the recommended percentage of EV-ready parking spaces, structure type, and percentage? It's under required EV parking capacity. It's just bracketed now. Is that us? Is that planning commission?
So Jen has edited up specific percentages for
Yeah.
specific locations already. I think that that's something where the planning commission would take a look at that and decide whether or not that's appropriate to move forward with. But
Okay.
I need to figure out who has the final say on that. My gut says council.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Will we be making recommendations? Like, will it be Jen's? And maybe, did I just miss that?
No,
I'm
you didn't
sorry.
miss it. No, she had, it's in like 18 different chapters.
Okay.
Yeah. And it says the same thing over and over and
Yeah.
over again, like this percentage in this place.
Yeah.
So she's already drafted up
Okay.
some percentage recommendations. From what I can tell, it's based on, again, this best practice document that the Great Plains Institute has put together for all of these amendments. So there's precedent in other cities.
Okay.
I don't know for sure if those numbers that she had drafted up came from a specific place. I would assume that there would be flexibility in those numbers, but yeah, I'd have to check.
Okay.
I echo Chair Miller's comments, and I really like seeing the ADA accessibility piece in here. I think that's critical as we think of the overall composition of our city. I think that's a good one. I'm curious, so I work along University Avenue in St. Paul, and they're putting in a brand-new Tesla charging supercharger station at the Super Target. I'd just be so bold as to say it is nowhere near accessible for a variety of different reasons, let alone the ADA thing. I'm just curious if you have any sense, or if the Planning Commission has any sense as to what's the timeline for developing such a national standard for ADA. I don't think anybody knows, but
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm curious if we know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not know.
So along those lines, does the planning commission in Oakdale, are they able to set precedent on where they are? Like, must be within 500 feet of the front of the building or whatever?
So I think that's a good question, and I feel like they probably would have thoughts on that. I did see in this best practice document that there are some cities who have made it very, very detailed to that point, where they've
Okay.
said, with the charging station that's mounted in a specific way, it has to be this far away from the curb, it has to be this
Yeah.
high up on the wall. So that is something that the Planning Commission could do. I think that the question for me is who actually gets to decide what those measurements are. Kind of like your question, who gets to determine
Yeah.
what the percentage is of parking spaces that are recommended to be in any particular parking lot? So I don't know who has that authority. I'm kind of learning along with you guys, but I will have to figure that out. It's not unusual, though, to have those very specific detailed things written out in the ordinances.
Yeah.
And just maybe a clarification
Yeah.
question for the EV parking space design and location, the first one. Are we to assume, and this could be common sense, so forgive the question, the installation of an EV charging station shall not reduce the overall parking space area dimensions below those required? Is that, what does that mean in layman's terms?
So my read on that is that we have specific requirements for parking lots in general, and what we're saying here is that installing an EV charging spot doesn't reduce any of those required minimums for parking spots that are for just ICE vehicles.
Okay, so within one lot, basically? Okay,
Correct.
all right,
They
Yeah.
don't count against you.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This might be another one. Is anyone legally able to tell a private business how to orchestrate their parking lot?
So there are standards that have to be met, and those standards are listed out in the zoning chapter,
Yeah.
chapter 25. When it comes to electric vehicles, obviously all this language is about recommending. We recommend that you do this, but we are not requiring. So at least for the purpose of the commission, that's not a standard that we're setting. I assume that private businesses are still beholden to the laws that are in Chapter 25 of these zoning ordinances. If there are required minimums, then you have to meet those minimums in order to get your parking lot signed off on.
Yeah, to get the approval. And are we envisioning this with it turning from requested to required? Like, are we looking to phrase it so that in the future, the next iteration of this commission can change those terms out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm not going to commit to that either way. Because,
Fair.
I think that right now where we are is saying recommended, but I think that eventually down the line, when there are more EVs on the road and it becomes more of a critical need, then there's opportunity for changing the ordinances in conjunction with that.
Yeah, that was actually something that I was thinking as we went through this, that, it's starting as not a requirement, and if it later may become a requirement, it may influence people to meet this recommendation, knowing that in the future it could be required, which, as it points out in here, it's much more economical to do it the first time rather than having to do a retrofit, which would be much more expensive, especially if it involves running electrical conduit and things like that. So if they, I think that needs to be something that is stressed as we go through this process.
I think the market is almost moving faster than most city and states, right? So I think a savvy business owner would see where the future is pointing. One would hope.
One would hope.
And then one more before y'all shut off my mic. Is there anything in here about who pays for it? Like the electricity itself, the private business would be, because I know like Tesla to yours, like they have an app that you like supercharge, like you pay for it there. But even the one at like Hy-Vee that's just standard, that the Hy-Vee pays for that, right? Okay.
So I don't know about your last point, whether or not Hy-Vee pays for it. There isn't anything right now in the ordinances that specifically calls out who is responsible for paying for the electricity that's going to these different charging stations. But in the signage section, that's one place where we could require information for public users of the charging stations to know certain things, including who's maintaining the charging station, what the charging rate is, where it goes, all that stuff.
Okay.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I have one, so, it talks about right here that the growth of the market, how are we gonna strongly encourage businesses to, put in these stations instead of just saying like, well, might just be cheaper for us not to do it. How are we gonna go about and try to encourage them to put the EV chargers in their parking lots? Because like we talked about, like putting all the wires and everything, and like, that means less parking spots, that could possibly mean less business. How are we gonna like possibly incentivize them to go with it?
Yeah, really good question. So at the very least, putting this language into the ordinances and reminding people that it just makes more sense to do this on the front end is one way, at least, to incorporate that language into the ordinances.
Okay.
Another element of the EV-ready community study that was presented was incentivizing programs. So there are other ways for us beyond just the ordinances to encourage private businesses to install charging stations. That's kind of the next step, I guess, as it were, in our EV-ready priority actions. So that would require, I think, programs.
Programs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the planning commission would have some thoughts too about, how they can frame this for new construction and retrofit, or, when renovations are made in buildings and that, or parking lots and things that they review that, the adding EV parking stations or during the renovation or new construction. And I'm thinking too of the multifamily units that'll be going in with Willowbrook. That if there could be some incentive there or moving towards a requirement for that, that would be good. And again, it would cost the developers a lot less than having to add that later. And you would think that would be also for the builder as a amenity, a nice amenity for multifamily units. So I'd like to make sure that the Planning Commission takes that into consideration as they review this.
Absolutely.
Any further comments? I would like to have a motion to recommend that, or to say that the EMC, our commission, supports presenting this draft of the EV-ready ordinance amendments to the Planning Commission for consideration and further refinement at this point.
So moved. You can second it.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of a statement that supports, resolve that the EMC supports presenting this draft to the Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have a resolution approved here to move forward, and yeah, Shannon, if you can find out if this can come back to us to, see what the final is and if we have any refinements ourselves after the Planning Commission does their refinements.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've gotten a lot of bullet points on what the EMC is specifically interested in changing a little bit based on this draft and what your priorities are. And so I will figure out whether or not this comes back to you first before the Planning Commission or what that process looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Would we also be able to include in the email for us when they intend to review this in their meeting?
Yeah, for sure.
In case we wanted to be a lovely audience member?
I would like to go to that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that right now my goal is to basically get it on their November agenda, just to say, hey, we're talking about this, so that they're ready to have the conversation. And it probably won't happen until December.
Okay.
So that's the tentative timeline, but
Yeah, perfect.
I don't know anything about the planning commission, so I will let you know.
We'll make it a field trip.
Exactly.
There you go. The language is gonna be really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before we move on to our next item, I would like to insert an item in the agenda here, if I may. In the past, related to the EV, being EV ready, we had discussed, and I think there was consensus that we wanted to have an EV study on the fleet, the city fleet. We didn't have a resolution to recommend that to the city council, so I think at this point I'd like to have a motion that there's a recommendation from the Environmental Management Commission to the city council to move forward with a EV fleet study.
So moved.
Second? Thank you. All in favor of recommending to the city council that we move forward with EV fleet study, say aye.
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 Opposed? The recommendation passed. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Solar Power Hour, and that was held on September 29th, and it was hosted by the Midwest Renewable Energy Association and co-hosted by the City of Oakdale, our commission, and also Eden Prairie was also a co-host for that Solar Power Hour. And I think I counted 55 participants at one point on the Zoom call, which was great. I think that was better than our turnouts here at City Hall in person in past years. So it was really good to get that information out there. Some of the takeaways for me and some of the things that really drive this are that, you know, electrical costs are going up. And I think they quoted a 2.5% increase per year on average. And I'd even see as high as 4% per year, but I guess it depends on who your provider is. And that also that it builds equity in your home, that they've shown that that cost for the solar PV is paid for in increasing your home price. It's something people will pay for that amenity in your home, and also that those homes sell faster as well from other homes. And then lastly, of course, it's low pollution, and you're helping climate change resolve to protecting our Earth. One other takeaway for me on this was that, you know, while south-facing homes are best, but if you don't have a south-facing home, south-facing roof, that the east and west facing is okay, and that it's, in general, it's maybe 20% reduction in the efficiency or the amount of solar available to your home, but it can still be acceptable. So if there are homeowners out there that say, oh, I don't have a south-facing rooftop, don't give up. It's you can still have a good payback with east and west facing. And another aspect I did know about, but I'll stress, is that there is still a federal tax credit of 26% now, and that's going to go away after next year. I think it drops to 24% next year, and then it will go away unless it's Congress approves to extend that. And then there's also solar rewards from Excel, and that the company, who will be installing these, True North Solar, they'll work with homeowners to make sure they get those tax credits, wherever they are. And here in Oakdale, those credits may be available to homeowners. So, and the federal tax credit is certainly available, but it brings down the cost of the installation, and plus the cost of the per watt of solar. With the group buy, that is going down as well. So it's really a chance for getting a good discount on putting solar on your home. So if you're thinking about it, make sure that you check that out and get a hold of Midwest Renewable Energy Association or True North Solar. The presentation was recorded and it's available to the public on demand, and so I think is that on the website, our website? Okay, yeah, just go to the Oakdale website and that's available.
It's on the MREA's website, but it's not on our website yet, so I can put it up there.
Okay. So, those are some of the takeaways I had for that. Any other comments on this? Or Shannon, if you want to also talk to this?
No, I was happy with the turnout for the meeting as well, and I was glad to see that the EMC was able to co-host, and Keith did a great job at the very beginning of just speaking for about a minute to say that Oakdale supports this, that it's important for us to get that information out. So I was very glad that we were able to be a co-host.
I did the one that was hosted by the city of Minneapolis, and we actually, it's all virtual, obviously, and then they email you a link to sign up for the individual consult after, and they were super responsive. We got a consultation, I think, within 72 hours, and they did an entire breakdown of the house, like my specific home, which was awesome. So we got pictures of what the roof would look like with the panels, how many panels they expected, what type of connectors would be best, the transformers in my neighborhood, benefits of being the first versus maybe the third or fourth, or the benefits of being the third or fourth. It told me about like the amount of solar in my neighborhood. So it was so informative. I did it over my lunch break. I had the consult, so it wasn't a huge time suck. And it was a huge amount of information that I could go through afterwards too. And they were so helpful. Like they spoke English, which was great, like, layman's terms. And it was a really, really good experience. So even if you're just considering it, maybe even in the future, it's totally worth it.
Any other comments on solar power hour? I was also happy that they pointed out that, obviously the best thing you can do is to conserve energy in your home so that you need less energy and less electricity from solar panels. So there are Home Energy Squad, and this is also relates to that this is Renewable Energy Month, and also energy conservation is also the most cost-effective way to address this issue of energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, is just to reduce your home energy needs. And I think it's Excel, it's $100 for a evaluation. And if you did participate in a solar power hour, that you get $30 off this month. So that's also an incentive to go ahead with a home energy audit. It's always good to do that if you haven't done that in a while. And so I'd just like to point that out as well. All right. I think I'll move along here to the next item on our agenda, which is adopt a drain. And we have a new schedule. The Environmental Management Commission decided that we would adopt drains here at Walton Park, and that we have 3 drains that we've been looking after for, I think it was started at the beginning of 2020, was it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And so we have a new schedule starting in 2022. And there are a couple of questions here. One, making sure that everybody is comfortable with the months that they have here, and also, do we really need to do this in January and February? I don't think, except for snow, there might not be a lot of debris there. So, and so the thought is, I guess I would like to get your comments about just skipping January and February. I guess depending on the melt and everything, March probably would be, at least towards the end of the month, get back on schedule with checking out the drains. But, and again, depending on whether we could, probably should go through December, especially based on the kind of fall we're having so far. So hopefully there will be snow and ice in January and February.
And just to clarify, this is the 2021 drain cleaning schedule. I wanted to bring it to the commission to ask if you wanted to not do any of the months before creating the 2022 schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought that was maybe a typo.
Nope.
Okay.
Unclear memo is what it was.
No, unclear reading, I think.
I think that makes sense, though, like January and February, maybe nix it. I might be the worst commissioner ever. I didn't realize we adopted 3. I thought we only had 2, so I've only been checking 2. So I apologize.
There are 2 that are really close together in the parking lot,
Are
and
the
then the
tennis
third one is
courts?
over by the roundabout area.
A little further west.
Yeah, I've definitely not, I apologize. September, 2 out of 3 were done, so. Ugh. And also February, they were checked, but they were under snow, so.
So I think, well, I guess the other comment is Commissioner Jackson, I should have known that you wouldn't have her on a new schedule. So, so yeah, maybe you could just revise this with starting in March of next year, and we can complete out this year. We'll need someone to move up or replace in November.
I'll do that,
Okay.
And I can
unless
take
you
a,
want to vote.
Well, I'm only on here once, so I could do it.
Okay.
Then you wouldn't have to do it
I mean-
3 months.
It's all yours.
I'll take it,
Done. Sold.
in the interest of fairness.
It's the equitable solution.
Absolutely.
A second? No, it's not necessary.
Are we voting? Is there a
Just
motion?
kidding.
Okay, so to finish out the year, October, it's Commissioner Girding, November, Commissioner Cantola, and December, Commissioner Brown. And then we'll start next year in March, and so you can put together schedule for next year.
I will do that.
Great. And I just would also like to point out that anybody can adopt a drain, any resident in Oakdale. Usually you would like to adopt the drain front of your house or near your house to make sure that it's kept clear of debris, leaves, sticks, and other things that may end up in the street. And the other that can wash into the storm sewer and then into probably a holding pond and then into a wetland area. So good to get the organic waste out of there because those holding ponds can get full of algae due to organic waste buildup, a lot of nitrogen going in there, especially if there is also runoff from fertilizers and other things going in there. So good to keep as much waste as you can out of your storm sewer drain. So there is information on Adopt a Drain. You can go to the Oakdale website and get information on it and also participate by adopting a drain.
I want to give a shout
I
out
wanna-
to their Instagram account as well. Yeah, it's really funny. And if you name the drain something like humorous, you might be featured. So you might be internet famous.
And I was just gonna add too, thank you. It is super easy. I adopted a different drain that was not on their roster. And so I just suggested the location and I took a photo of it and within 24 hours, they added it. So adoptadrain.org is super responsive, really good like customer facing engagement behind their little nonprofit lens.
Yeah.
So appreciated that. So easy to participate.
Great. So, moving forward then, the next item on our agenda is the editorial calendar review. And pointed out that this is Energy Awareness Month. And also a focus on renewable energy. There's a national solar tour happening this month. And the Energy Efficiency Day was October 6th. And again, topics that we would like to stress, of course, is home energy audits that mentioned, and there is a home energy squad that does those. And also Washington County has a Be a Battery Hero campaign. So things that you can check out and participate in. And next month is recycling. And are there any ideas of things that we would like to communicate about that? America Recycles Day is November 15th. And also I know that also have the food scraps drop-off program is mentioned here. So, and I know that we have a couple of commissioners participating in that. If there's something further we can do around that as well. And the farmers market will be shutting down, I imagine, sometime here, but.
Yeah, I think this past week was the last
Yeah.
week for
Okay.
the outdoor market, the summer market.
When does the indoor market start up?
Great question, I'm not sure.
It's
Sometime in the
it's
winter.
Soon, I think it's November, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. It's in the Oakdale update. I think it's November.
That just
Okay.
came in
Yeah,
our mail.
really pretty cover.
Yeah.
I think with the recycling, I think we should just mention that it's not just food scraps. It's about to be the holiday season, which is, the consumption time of the year. So your TVs, your computers, CFL, like the spiral pigtail light bulbs, all of those can be dropped off at the environmental center. It's super, super easy. You don't even have to get out of your car. They'll take it right out of the back for you. So instead of throwing those into the garbage, maybe think about recycling them. Or, maybe your neighbors have something, you can kind of get all together and just make one trip maybe. But all of that is recyclable. They take it, they scrap it, they wipe it. So really encourage anyone out there who's listening to consider that as an option instead of just in the landfill.
Thank you for mentioning that, and especially mentioning that, check with your neighbors if they have things, because I know a neighbor asked me one time, he was going there, and I had a bag of old CFL light
Yeah.
bulbs, and, I didn't really want to make a drive out there just for a bag of CFLs. I was waiting till I had more, and so it was easy to give it to him and
Yeah.
get rid of them. So it'd be a nice thing to ask your neighbor.
Yeah.
And I think whatever we can do to encourage business recycling too, and so if there's something we can do to get out information to the Oakdale business community, that would be great.
I will say, in January, we sent a postcard to a number of Oakdale businesses about the biz recycling program, just to give them brief information and a hyperlink. And I have ordered another round of those postcards to go out, so they should be in mailboxes sometime in the next week, and that preps it nicely for November being recycling month.
Great. Thank you. So anything else about the editorial review calendar? If there's anything to add, if you know of something else? No? Okay. So now we're to other commissioner updates. And if any of the commissioners has anything else that was not included on the agenda that they would like to discuss, bring up at this point, or any updates on anything that they participated in or would like to mention?
I think I just want to put in a plug for our parks. It's about to be gorgeous out. You get to go outside and you're not going to be sweaty. And really encourage bike riding. I know you're a huge fan. And it's about to be the perfect season for it. I think that October was like there was like a national biking event, if the emails I got from work were correct. So just really consider that. I know the Nature Preserve in Oakdale has a bunch of paved trails, but also a bunch of unpaved trails that are fantastic. So they're not too dangerous. They're just kind of a lot of fun. So I would recommend giving it a shot. It's beautiful weather.
Yes, it certainly, with this weather, has extended the biking season for those who don't like to bike in the cold.
Yeah. Or the heat, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll mention that I did participate in a multi-faith event to support climate justice and to include, in the package that's being put together, the climate plan, to make sure that we are including what we need to move away from fossil fuels and to stop pipelines from going in and starting up. And it's a multi-faith group through Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, and there were all different Christian faiths, Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim. We're all speaking in a prayer circle today, and we took a walk then with our signs across the bridge, Stone Arch Bridge, and
Oh, wow.
had a lovely lunch in a park across the bridge and we were at the Federal Building to send the message to our federal senators and congresspeople. And I think it's also important for, to address climate change is that we let our elected officials know our position and supporting to move towards responding to this climate crisis by more renewable energy and to get away from adding fossil fuel infrastructure in the U.S. So we can act locally, but we also need to express ourselves to state and federal officials about the importance of renewable energy and moving away from fossil fuels as well. We're doing our best we can here on a local level, but it really needs to be across the U.S. So, if there are no other updates from commissioners?
You guys want a tree board update?
Yes.
Love one.
Well, we met in September. That was our Q3 meeting? Q3 meeting. And we are working, so we've got our tree giveaway that we do every spring. We're working to increase the diversity of the urban forest by offering some different stuff that we haven't offered before. Hopefully not another crabapple, because there's too many of those. So we're working with Lauren, the city forester, to get that all squared away. We've got some recommendations to him. He's going to go back to the nursery, see what's available. We'll get that finalized at our January meeting. You guys are certainly welcome to come hang at the January meeting if you want to. We'd welcome that. Always glad to have input. And if you guys have any requests or input, just at me. You know how to reach out. But yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm pretty excited about the stuff we've got coming up. The spring planting should be fun. We'll finalize that kind of in January as well. So
What's the date on the January meeting?
that is a good question that I don't have an answer to off the top of my head.
That's
It
good.
is on the city website though.
Oh, sweet. All right.
It's on the calendar, so you'll find it. It's usually the first Tuesday? I think it's usually the first Tuesday. But don't hold me to that, because I don't remember.
And
You
the,
drain.
Yeah.
the spring
Clean your-
planting, is that the volunteer? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And we are going to need volunteers for that.
Perfect.
Because in the past, we have had a lot of participation from North St. Paul, like
Yeah.
their 10th grade science classes would come out. But the teacher who was responsible for coordinating that has retired. So we are
Okay.
probably going to have a dearth of volunteers. So we're going to need some volunteers.
Yeah, keep us posted.
Yeah, I will. That's all I have.
Great. Oh, and there was one other item on an agenda that I had forgotten about, and asking Shannon, do we have, we now have an open position, and I know there was, I think, one potential candidate, and I'm just wondering where that stands now.
So we do have one applicant, and that applicant is moving through the process. They have not yet come before city council, and obviously council has the final say on any applicants themselves. So that is in the works. I'm hopeful that if everything is approved, that applicant will be able to join us in the November meeting, considering we don't have a December meeting. But if not November, then January, hopefully.
Okay, great. Yeah, it'd be good to have a full complement again.
Yes.
And so that's good. We got someone at least going through the process now and everything. So good, good. All right. If there are no other updates at this point, I would look for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of closing our October 18th, 2021 Environmental Management Commission meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.